Hello and welcome to my video on bits, bytes and compression, where we'll be learning about bits, bytes and compression. First of all, the bits and bytes part. You might have heard these words, a bit and a byte, and there are a lot of other related words that talk about the amount of data. Well, let's just focus on these ones: bit, byte, kilobyte and megabyte. Now, a bit is a binary digit, either a 0 or a 1. A byte is 8 bits. Very confusing. They have a similar symbol, but a byte is a capital B because it is bigger than a bit. It is 8 bits. So we also have a kilobyte. 1 kilobyte is 1,000 bytes, kind of like how 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. And a megabyte. A megabyte is 1,000 kilobytes, or 1,000,000 bytes. Let's see how that works. If I want to convert 3 kilobytes into bytes, 1 kilobyte is 1,000 bytes, so 3 kilobytes is 3 times 1,000, which is 3,000 bytes. If I want to convert 3, this is a capital B, this is a lowercase b, so convert 3 bytes into bits, well, 3 bytes, 1 byte is 8 bits, so 3 times 8 is 24 bits. 3 bytes is 24 bits, which is 24 ones and zeros. If I want to convert megabytes, this is megabytes. How can I tell it's bytes rather than bits? The capital B means bytes. So this is 3 megabytes into bytes. 1 megabyte is 1,000,000 bytes. So this is 3,000,000 bytes. Good. This section here talks about the amount of data, but we have another measure for the speed at which we're sending data. And bandwidth is the average speed of a network connection. As an example, you can go on many speed test sites. You just Google speed test and you'll find heaps of them. This one shows the results of a speed test that I did at school that says 75.87 mega. This little b, is that a bit or a byte? It's megabits. Megabits per second. Now, often, companies that sell internet connections, they will almost always use bits per second. But it's very different to the amount of megabytes per second. You can see why they advertise it using this big sounding figure. But if I want to convert this from bits to bytes, a byte is a much larger piece of information. So the amount of megabytes per second is a lot smaller. To convert from megabits to megabytes per second, from megabits per second to megabytes per second, we divide by 8. So we get this number, we divide by 8, about 9.5 megabytes per second. If you're downloading a file, I guess that's what is meaningful to you because we measure files in megabytes. But network speeds are often measured in this one, which sounds great for marketing, doesn't it, if you're selling an internet connection. Finally, we can find out how long it would take to download a 5 megabyte website on this connection. You can probably have a guess. I mean, you can download 10 megabytes in 1 second. So 5 megabytes, I don't know, maybe about half a second. We can also use this formula. The time taken is the size of the file in megabytes divided by the bandwidth in megabytes per second. So here, the size is 5 megabytes. The bandwidth, the speed of the internet connection or network connection was 9.48. So the answer, again, is about half a second. So that's bits and bytes. One more thing that we'll do before I finish off the video, which is how you can find out the size of files in Linux. To find out how large a file is, you run the ls command, but you put in a parameter that lists the long details, -l. Yes, that is an L there, not a 1. So if you do that, you'll get some details about permissions and who owns the file, when it was last modified, the name of the file, but also this. And this is the file size in bytes. Alphabet.txt, for example, is 352 bytes. Meme.png is 129,000 bytes, and so on. To convert this into kilobytes, we can remember that 1 kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. 1 kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. So how many kilobytes is this? Well, I could divide by 1,000 and get 130 kilobytes, which is pretty typical for a small picture. And finally, I have a video here. We can expect this to be larger. It says that it is 82 million bytes. Do you notice if I write it like this with spaces every 3 or commas, for example, it's easier to see how many megabytes it is? To convert this into, let's convert it into megabytes. 1 megabyte is 1 million bytes. So this is about 83 megabytes. Good. So that's how you can find the size of files. And before, hopefully now, you know a little bit about the difference between bits, bytes, and megabits per second, and megabytes per second. All right. Good luck. Bye, everyone.